Sometimes all you need to do is try. I have a story to back that up. Recently, I was in a meeting, and it was a pretty important meeting. There was probably over 20 people in the room, very smart individuals. But, as a meeting starts getting going, you start to feel, the pressure. Some people start to feel the pressure of other people in there. You feel a little bit of anxiety. And the reason I bring this up is because there started to be some technical issues with the computer that was the presentation machine. So the person that was going to present to the group in the meeting was having issues getting everything working properly. And I think it was their keyboard and mouse were connected to this TV via a Bluetooth USB adapter. And I remember this moment for like 30 seconds to a minute. Everybody's kind of looking around. It's quiet. They're like, okay, the meeting needs to start. And everybody's sort of looking at each other thinking, are you going to help? Do we need to call IT? And this is like me starting at a place. I'm fairly new, so they don't really know what I'm capable of. Only I really knew what I'm capable of. And I know it's just a USB thing, but sometimes, that those nerves can prevent people from actually showing their ability and their talent to troubleshoot things. And so I just stand up, which was weird because, you got 20 people and then we're supposed to sort of be the participants in the meeting, and, and I'm like, all right, let me go check it out. So I just stood up and I said, let me go check it out. I looked at the TV, I was looking around, and I saw this USB connection, and I literally unplugged it and plugged it back in, and it worked, right? And boom. And I know that's not very technical, and I'm not bragging about that from a technical standpoint because anybody could do that. I'm just saying maybe sometimes you don't have confidence to even try. And so I went up and just did that, and it worked, and it fixed it. I didn't know. I hadn't been in that room before. I hadn't seen that keyboard mouse setup. Like, it could have been anything. But I took the initiative to try, and it ended up helping people. And as a result of that willingness, and even that me being able to succeed in helping them, it created a perception that I know what I'm doing and that I'm somebody who's willing to help and probably can help you with a technical issue. As funny as that seems, because I know a lot of people I talk to and a lot of y'all out there are way more technical than a USB connection to the computer. But I'm telling you, with a lot of people, that's all it takes. Sometimes all it takes is you helping somebody connect to their Wi-Fi network, and now you're their go-to person. And that's not a bad thing, okay? That's a good thing. You're becoming a trusted resource to them. And I bring that story up because it's recent, and it was a time where it felt kind of nerve-wracking because you're basically on spot. But sometimes you just try and it'll fix it, right? Like, let's say I tried and it didn't fix it, would we have been worse off? I don't think so, because the meeting wasn't happening anyways because that person couldn't have their screen showing, or they could have their screen showing, but they couldn't have their document, their presentation progress because they didn't have the keyboard and mouse. I've got one more story, I promise, before I let y'all go, is the more technical. Okay, so there is a company, they're a metal bending company. Believe it or not, that exists, where you have these tubing companies or these, huge manufacturing facilities that are doing a very niche thing. This one company I was helping, they did tubing and they had a metal bending machine in their facility. I mean, when you walked in, you saw a huge factory of just a bunch of machines. There were CNC machines in there. And then there were these massive machines that literally just bend metal. And next to this metal bending, I actually had helped them with that metal bending machine prior. It was like a Windows 7 at the time. All I did is right click the software and enable compatibility mode, and it worked. But the issue that I resolved in this case was a thermal printer that was actually printing out. They were very reliant on this printer to print out labels. that would go on different, you know, pieces of equipment that they were selling. And so I remember prior to even going on this on-site call, I had some of my coworkers telling me, I don't know, we don't really do that, because the guy was calling the company I was working at the time because he knew that we had solved issues for him before. That was with that metal bending machine, which was clearly an information technology issue. It was an application that needed to be running compatibility mode for it to work. The guy would go up to the laptop, which was running Windows 7 at the time, try to open the software to interact and give commands to the metal bending machine. We fixed that, and that was me that did that on-site call. And then we would go to, you know, so we had established this this rapport with them. They basically saw us as, hey, if it's a technology thing, they probably know how to do it. And, you know, because I had gone there before and had success, they were looking at me like, do you think we can do this? And some people were like, I don't know if we can do this. We don't really support those machines. These are like old machines. And I remember the business owner at the time literally told us he buys these big, huge machines that they bring in on a crane off of eBay. And, you know, like, hey, he knows his business. But we get called, and this label maker, this printer was not working properly. And this printer was huge. It was like this big metal thermal printer thing. And without it, they couldn't continue, I guess, a part of their process. I never got into exactly every little manufacturing process they had, but anytime they had technology issues holding it up, I came in. In this case, there was a lot of doubt. And I remember the owner of the company looking at me like, Bob, do you think you can do this? And I was like, yeah, I think I can do it. And I will say in the back of my mind, I was kind of like, I don't know if I can do this. But I felt almost like a stubborn level of confidence in my own ability to learn. So I go there, I walk out on the manufacturing floor. They walk me up to this machine, this printer. And I'm sitting at the printer. And I'm trying to figure out what's going on, because I get it to start printing again, and then but it's not printing the right dimensions, right? Like it's like too big of font or whatever. And so I'm like, I got to learn this thing, right? So I'm literally staring at a piece of technology I've really never seen in my life, but because I understand how technology works, I believe I can do it, right? So I spend a couple hours there, and I end up learning this thing supports RS-232 connections, just like with Cisco routers and switches, how you can connect a console cable to it. You literally communicate with the printer and the controller for the printer using a serial connection. So I had that plugged into my laptop. I was literally using PuTTY to connect to it and try to communicate with it and try to change the baud rate around. And I had this manual I was reading online. It was like a PDF of that model printer. And eventually I was like, what if I just set this thing to its defaults? Like, is there a default setting? And on it was this drive. The people on the floor kept calling it a drive. And it had physical switches on it. So for manufacturing people out there that work with these machines, please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong about any of this, but it had these switches on it, literal physical switches you would flick down or up in certain patterns. And I found in this documentation, this PDF, I'm looking through it, it had a sequence that I had to flick up, down, different switches in order to set it back to its factory defaults. And so I found that in the documentation, boom, got it. And I'm telling you, it started to print right. And they were hyped. They were like, what? No way. And like, you know, I think even the team I went back to, they were surprised that I got that working. And the only reason that even worked in the first place was because I believed in my ability to learn new things. Maybe I was a little stubborn in not thinking about, do we do this? Because if I spent all that time and then we charged them for 2 hours of labor or whatever we were charging for. At the time, it was hourly. Like we would charge hourly rates as a managed service provider. But I went in and fixed the issue. If I hadn't fixed it, it could have been an issue. And I remember thinking, like, in those moments, there's this intense pressure of, if I don't fix the problem, I wasted their money. And as nerve-wracking as that is, it also drives me, and in that case, drove me to really, like, not give up, you know? And so it started printing again. They were happy, and they continued, you know, working with the organization. And, you know, as you go through your career, for those in IT and cybersecurity or any skills-based field in the first place, you need to realize that this is a performance-based field. So when you go out there and they're asking for your help, whether you were successful or not, they'll remember that, right? They will especially remember how you made them feel, but they'll also remember if your solution worked or not, or if your tool worked or not, or you helped. And so I just want you to know that sometimes your courage to even try in the first place will take you so far. It hasn't hurt me yet. I will say my stubbornness and my believing that I can fix it and resolve it, or at least get you to the next step, has gone far for me. It hasn't really hurt me thus far in my career. So I'd recommend for you in your tech journey to believe in your ability to learn, cultivate your ability to learn, and then really try. Sometimes you just need to make the decision. It's not an intellect thing. It's more of a courage thing, where you say, I'm going to help in this situation. Somebody needs help. I know it's probably not my job, but I'm going to do it. And you will be surprised how much opportunity that creates and how much of a blessing you can become for other people who need you. So, hey, keep learning.